Now that we got all that silly, stupid Champions League stuff out of the way, it's time to get to the real business, the Europa and Conference League, which I'm just going to start off the drop here. I don't know what Crystal Palace is doing, but they have been playing with their food for far too long. Not only have they managed to not finish top 8 in the Conference League, which I'm pretty sure most championship teams would be able to do that. Very disappointing from them. They are now struggling with Zrinjski out of Bosnia and Herzegovina. I am aware that this is like a weird away day. But like at a certain point, you have to just be able to sack up and be able to beat these teams. I mean, you won the FA Cup for crying out loud the previous season to earn your way into this tournament. You shouldn't even be here. You should be in the Europa League, right? You had the ownership freaking conflict that bumped them down to the Conference League. But Zrinjski is not even one of the harder teams that you could have drawn at this stage. And even though they won the possession battle at 72%, they did not win the XG battle. Right, this was not an overwhelming performance from Crystal Palace where they just happened to not score. They showed up in Bosnia and Herzegovina and they couldn't beat them. Now, what I need, and I'm not like a Crystal Palace fan or anything, but if you're a Crystal Palace fan, what you need is for Crystal Palace to deliver something, literally anything. Like, not anything. You need a 3-4-0 at home easy to start feeling comfortable and feeling good about your Conference League performance again in this situation. Right? This is a team that you should be, they're from a league that I would consider in the bottom third of all European leagues, and that might even be generous. Right? They're from Narnia in terms of a footballing sense. It's a huge victory for Zrinjski to be able to get to this point, to get to the Conference League knockouts at all. Right? The Crystal Palace not being able to win this match is crazy. I don't know if Zrinjski would be able to get promoted out of League One. I mean, if we're doing relativity, obviously that's the sort of question you can never find an answer to. But in terms of player valuations, there are definitely teams in League One with a more valuable roster than Zrinjski. I'm super impressed with the way they're able to play and do this, but I think more of it falls on Crystal Palace just not being able to execute at the level they need to execute. And that was not the only big surprise. AZ from the Netherlands went out to Armenia and lost to Noah. Again, this is all reversible, right? These are teams, Noah and Zrinjski, that are not really experienced in playing in the type of environments that AZ and particular Crystal Palace are going to be able to provide on the home leg, a knockout home leg in Europe, which for both of those clubs, Crystal Palace and AZ, is an unusual occurrence, right? It's going to be a packed house. They're going to be really on edge for it. There's going to be a lot of energy, and I expect both AZ and Crystal Palace to be able to handle it. But the Armenian League is going to slot right up there with the Bosnian League, as these leagues just aren't very good. These are teams that you should not be dropping to. And the Conference League, I know it's known for being chaotic, but once the rubber meets the road in the knockouts, you don't normally see this, right? AZ and Crystal Palace are two teams that can reasonably expect to win the whole thing, that are now on the ropes, that have now had everything come down to a single game, right? For Noah, this is a redemption. Right, they've clearly taken a stride forward. They did not have much of the ball, but much the same as Zrinjski, they created more chances. They had more shots. Right, they've built the arc and they're floating. Noah of Armenia has not only made the knockouts, but they are beating a team from the Netherlands in the knockouts. I realize Crystal Palace and AZ might not be taking these matches as seriously as maybe they should. But it is a clear indication that on a night, there are teams in a lot of leagues in Europe that can actually produce a performance, particularly at their park, that can make a lot of these teams sweat. Fortunately for sanity, there was one team that was able to execute on that promise. Even though they're terrible in Serie A this year, Fiorentina was sensational. They won 3-0 at a pretty good Jagiellonia side, who I would put is way better than Noah and Zrinjski when it comes to this sort of thing. And Fiorentina delivered belt to ass in the second half. That's when all three of their goals came, and this was a very impressive performance with over 2 XG produced. Penalty was a part of that, but it was enough for Fiorentina. They are the kings of this tournament. They've never actually won it, but they seem to be at least in the semifinals of the Conference League every year. They will not be in it next year, because if you look at the Serie A table, this is really what Fiorentina has to pay attention to, unless they're starting to pull themselves up on the bottom. Okay, they have won 2 of their last 5 matches to pull themselves off the bottom of the table. They're trying not to get relegated, so league matches are very important for them. But a shot at this elusive European glory in the Conference League seems to be right in their crosshairs. Disappointing, tough draw, right, for Jagiellonia to get Fiorentina from the top pot when you could get teams like Rijeka and Samsunspor and Celje right? They ended up having to play Fiorentina, and they are paying for it, right? It's going to be near impossible for them to go to Italy and actually get the result that they want. A couple of other interesting results. I mean, we're going through all of them, but Lech Poznan with an impressive win in Finland against KUPS. So the Polish league with a bit of a bounce back here from Lech Poznan. They probably could have put it away thanks to a 12th minute red card. They scored just one of their 2 goals after that. And, you know, there will be at least the belief for KUPS that they have a snowball's chance in hell here now that they're only down 2-0. Sigma Olomouc and Samsunspor. You got Czech Republic against Switzerland here, 1-1. Right, neither of these are the big name teams from their country. It would be huge for either of these clubs to be able to get through to the last 16 of this tournament. I would have made Samsunspor the favorites coming into it, but a bounce back goal in the second half and a pretty dominant display overall in this match from Sigma Olomouc seems like it was wasted. And I would back Samsunspor to be able to hang on to it at home. But if you want to tune into a match where there's going to be some great desperation on both sides, that's definitely the place to pay attention. Slovenia's Celje in maybe the worst matchup of this round, on the road against Kosovo's Drita. Incredible from Drita to be able to get to the knockouts from Kosovo. I mean, it's one of the worst leagues in Europe that's not in a micro state. They've done really, really well to play to this level, but Celje was in the Conference League knockouts last year. They're here again, right? This is a level that they're comfortable with. This is a level that their players have experience with, and that showed through kind of at the end of this game. Drita did a brilliant job coming back, right? It looked like it was going to be over early, particularly if you were just score watching. You go, okay, it's already 2-0 Celje. Celje is the name I recognize from the Conference League last year. They're going to see it out. But Drita scored 2 goals, and then that experience, 94th minute goal, just the fight from Celje, who've improved a lot domestically in Slovenia. When they were putting that run together last year, they were not close to the best team in the Slovenian league. Now they actually are really the best team in Slovenia. They've used that European success to build a better team. I would expect them to be able to handle what is a pretty short away day at home. Omonia of Cyprus at home against Rijeka out of Croatia. Rijeka with a 1-0 win. Not easy. Cypriot League is better than you'd think. Same as the Greek League. This was an 86th minute goal from Rijeka that ends up making all the difference. It was against the run of play. I honestly might have even picked Omonia to win the entire tie now, and they absolutely still could. This is probably a tie on the final day that is going to produce maybe some of the most drama. Shkindija, the stunning Macedonian entrance into this knockout, losing at home to Samsunspor of Turkey 1-0. Once you get outside the couple big teams in Turkey, there is a fall-off, right? You're looking at Galatasaray dropping a 5-2 win against Juventus, right? Samsunspor is not going to be swinging that heavy of a stick here, but I still would have expected them to win this by more. They missed a penalty in the first half and left it all the way to the 77th minute to find their actual winning goal. But based off the way they were able to dominate this match, even though Shkindija was the home team, it looks as though Shkindija has not been, they're not going to be able to continue their magical run. But now for that nonsense I promised you in the Europa League. Lille lost, and they are now in serious trouble because a well-documented, incredibly difficult away day is to go play against Red Star. Well, guess what? Lille now is down, going to Serbia in need of a result. Not a great look for France here, obviously, to have Lille struggling this way. I remember when Lille was a team that, was beating PSG to the top of Ligue 1. They've gone a long way from there. They gave up the goal right before the half. This is a huge result for Red Star, right? I get the feeling the Conference League, the introduction of something like the Conference League would have been a boon for clubs like Red Star. They would have been one of the first names off the sheet where you go, oh, that's the type of club that could really win this thing. If it goes their way, it's going to help them get a bigger, more continental, global stage. This is the type of match they need to start winning if they're actually going to take advantage of that, and it's a huge result for Red Star to get. 1-0 in France. Bit of a nightmare for Lille. They had less than 0.5 XG. Now, because Lille obviously is going to have more talent just per position than Red Star, there's a chance they could turn this around. But Red Star, I would say, is now the betting favorite to be able to knock out one of the bigger French clubs. I mean, we're in the playoff round here. Right, we haven't even gotten to the last 16 yet of the Conference League. Bad look for Lille. They are feeling really, really rough tonight. My favorite team, Viktoria Plzen. They still haven't lost, even though they are kind of the king of the draw. A 2-2 comeback draw at Panathinaikos in Greece, right? Greece has been very impressive. Viktoria Plzen took an early lead. I would have backed them at this time, to actually be able to hold on to that lead because Plzen's defense is just haram ball on steroids. They give up nothing. But Panathinaikos was able to find a way through on 31 and 61 to get out to a 2-1 lead. And that's when I check back in on this game, and an 80th minute equalizer for Viktoria Plzen has kept them entirely undefeated in this competition and opens up, of course, the possibility that Viktoria Plzen never actually loses a match of the whole competition but gets eliminated anyways if this ends up going to penalties in the second leg. But a draw away, particularly in a matchup of two teams, two pretty darn good teams, two I would say of the best non-Power 5 league teams you find in the Europa League. These two right here. Going to the Czech Republic, it's going to be, I don't know about fireworks because Viktoria Plzen is a haram ball enjoyer, but it's going to be a very exciting match once you get past 70 minutes in the drama. You know, the rubber starts to meet the road. Brann out of Norway against Bologna. The Bologna sandwich picks up a 1-0 win. They are not a normal European participant. This is fully uncharted territory for Bologna to be playing these types of matches in February, which is why I give them maybe a little discount for not being able to be a little more dominant. They also don't have the huge infrastructure and huge firepower of the Italian team you'd normally expect to find in the Europa League, like a Roma, for example, right? So this is a survive and advance situation. The farther they go, I would be very willing to go out on a limb and say Bologna has never won a European trophy. This is a unique opportunity for them. They absolutely have a chance to get it. I would be a little concerned with the fact that they didn't have much of the ball in this game. Right, Brann does feel like they are very much in the conversation with Bologna in terms of the ability to play. Bologna is going to need to use that home field advantage to win. Nottingham Forest, they did not succumb to the drama. They won 3-0 in Turkey, right, which is not the easiest thing to do. Now that Dyche is gone, they seem to have gotten some sort of new manager bump and just absolutely lay in the wood here. Because as much as Nottingham Forest has been out to sea, as it were, in the league, if you win the Europa League, you're in the Champions League next season. And not only that, you have a major European trophy that you can stuff into your back pocket as the return of Nottingham Forest continues. So obviously they're going to be focused on the whole let's not get relegated operation, but it is a huge deal for Nottingham Forest to be able to do this. Brutal draw for Fenerbahce to get Nottingham Forest in the playoff, and I don't see them being able to come back from that. Genk continues to show that the Belgian league is on the rise, an impressive 3-1 win over the Croatian giants Dinamo Zagreb. This was 2-0 inside 21 minutes, so very impressive start, and then a nice icing on the cake 90th minute goal. They snuck by Dinamo Zagreb. Genk, though, not overly dominant, right? Obviously, Dinamo Zagreb at home, they are one of the best former Yugoslav territory teams that you're going to find right up there with Red Star. A lot of your favorite Croatian wonder kids have come through the ranks at this club. They could still do something in the second leg. Genk is absolutely not out of the woods here. It wasn't the type of dominant performance that I'm going to have. It's going to have me saying that they're out of the woods. PAOK had an opportunity to try and pick off a power league team. They didn't do it. Celta Vigo 2-1 on the road in Greece. Kind of the similar situation to Bologna, not a normal European team at all. Celta Vigo in fully uncharted territory. I kind of like that better sometimes because this is just a once-in-a-lifetime experience for the fans of Bologna, for the fans of Celta Vigo, where PAOK Thessaloniki is in this position a lot more than Celta Vigo is. So they were able to handle the nerves. They got going early. They still got Iago Aspas out there. He's the guy that scored the initial goal. Then a late goal from PAOK Thessaloniki it's kept them in it. If PAOK Thessaloniki is good enough to go to Celta Vigo and cause problems, especially, if it's a quick early first goal, Celta Vigo's been dealing with that pressure and the nerves of playing in front of their home fans. So I wouldn't say they're out of the woods, but if you're Celta Vigo, if you're Bologna, a road win in a European knockout it's gravy for them. Celtic continues the bad look for all Scottish teams everywhere. Stuttgart out of Germany with a demolition up in Scotland, a 4-1 win. Looked like it might be competitive for a moment. Ben Nygren with a 21st minute equalizer, but on the other side of halftime, it was pretty quickly 3-1. And then the final goal was the ultimate depression for Celtic, 4-1. I say the ultimate depression because they were in this game. If you check the highlights from this game, whatever, Celtic was creating chances. They just weren't finishing. Stuttgart was. And if you lose by 3 goals at home, my goodness, you're going to need one of those big-time, all-time European turnarounds to prevent yourself from being eliminated. And Stuttgart, one of the power league teams, like Bologna, like Celta Vigo, like Nottingham Forest, they're sitting there going, we can win this thing, right? This is a European trophy, which is so rare for Stuttgart. It's very winnable. And if you can go win at Celtic Park 4-1, I think you can beat just about anybody in the tournament. Then the tie that really nobody cared about, Hungary, Bulgaria. I was hungry to watch this one. You know what I'm saying? You're welcome. Ludogorets, though, won at home 2-1 for Bulgaria. So which of these teams is going to fight its way into the last 16 of the Europa League? Both of these clubs would be very happy to make it to that point. I'd say Ferencváros has more experience at that level than Ludogorets does in recent memory. This was 1-1 at the half, 2-1 to Ludogorets in the second half. Ferencváros was the better team analytically, but Ludogorets was just kind of buoyed by that fervent, like smoke in the stands type of Eastern European support that they're going to be getting. But of course, Ferencváros is going to be getting that on the return trip. So this, looking at all of these matches, I think Ludogorets going to Ferencváros in the Europa League playoffs, that is a match to watch. Two teams you don't normally get to see. It's going to be high drama. It's kind of a neighborhood game for them, so it's not even just the clubs. There's kind of pride for the countries involved in that as well, who can get to the Europa League last 16. It's a draw that both of those teams, I think, would have been pretty happy with, particularly Ludogorets getting Ferencváros as a seeded team when they dodged, I would say, basically every other seeded team is probably better. So when opportunity beckons, drama normally follows, and there's an opportunity for both of those teams. But this has been a really good start. There's jeopardy in a lot of these ties, which has not always been the case. Shout out to the Europa League and Conference League for just giving us nonstop drama.